Mark Ogden's joining me, and Augie, you've been writing about whether clubs should keep or move on certain players. We're focusing on Liverpool right now. Let's start off with Salah, because this strangely is still a big one. And we know that this season he has probably flirted in an interview, a now popular interview, with life or wanting life maybe outside of Liverpool. Liverpool not having their best season this time around. So should Liverpool keep him at all costs or might think of moving him on?
I think in an ideal world, Liverpool will keep him. He's 29 later this month, so he's still probably in the peak of his career. But the problem that Liverpool has got is that Mo Salah has 2 years left in his contract, so he's due to expire in 2023. What do you do with a guy that will be 31 then? Do you give him a new contract now, which I'd imagine will take him, maybe to 2025? Then you're adding him to 33. So this is a business decision which Liverpool have been really good at in recent years in terms of picking the contractual situations to make sure that no player gets to an age where he doesn't offer a resale value. Now, in many ways, at 29 in 2 or 3 weeks, Mo Salah is at the perfect time to be sold. But he's such a good player. He was second only to Harry Kane in the Premier League Golden Boot this year. He scores loads of goals. He creates goals as well. So Liverpool have a decision to make. Do they extend Mo Salah's contract and risk him being a player in his early 30s, which doesn't offer the same? Or do they sell or cash in now when he's at the peak of his powers? But the problem is, Mo Salah is probably £100 million player. But we're in a pandemic situation where the club's finances aren't what they were. So I don't think Liverpool could get anything like £100 million for Mo Salah because the clubs that would generally pay for that aren't there to pay it or to make that investment. So it's a really difficult situation for Liverpool. Salah's obviously made it clear that he wouldn't rule out a move to Spain at some point in his career, and maybe now is the time to do it. If he signs a new contract to Liverpool, which commits him there till 24, 25, then he rules himself out of a move to La Liga. So there's a bit of a standoff here. I think both parties know that it could go either way, and both parties can see the advantages of it going either way. So I think we have to wait and see, because Liverpool, for me, are going to struggle to find a player to replace Mo Salah, even at 29, that can do what he does. So I don't see this being resolved soon because there's too much at stake for both parties. So this could run on to next year.
What about Gini Wijnaldum? We know he's a free agent now, so he has been moved on from Liverpool. As you said, that they would struggle to find a player to replace Mo Salah. What about replacing Gini Wijnaldum? What do you see here?
Well, Wijnaldum's been a fantastic servant for Liverpool since he arrived from Newcastle. Didn't cost a lot of money. Played in such big games. A big player. That we all remember the Champions League semi-final performance against Barcelona. So he's been a big part of Liverpool's success. But his contract expires at the end of June. He hasn't chosen to sign a new one, so I think he's going to move on. Liverpool need to replace him, but also they've got a midfield whereby Jordan Henderson's in his 30s now, James Miller's in his 30s now. They have to find a younger version of Gini Wijnaldum to kind of ensure the squad doesn't get weakened. But again, if he's leaving for nothing, Liverpool have to find some money to replace him, and it could cost 30, 40 million pounds to find a player that can replace Gini Wijnaldum. So unfortunately for Liverpool, they've lost money on Wijnaldum because he's going for nothing. They have to replace him. That'll be the hard part, finding a player that can do what Ronaldo has done for the last 5 years.
What about Liverpool's defense now? They've recently signed Ibrahima Konate. What does that mean for everyone else there, I suppose? Do you foresee a lot of surplus to requirements, and which ones might be moved on?
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool could actually field a team of defenders, I think. If you go through the list, you've got Virgil van Dijk, who everyone hopes and expects will be back next season, Joe Gomez, Joe Matip, Ben Davies, who signed from Preston in January, hasn't kicked a ball yet, Ozan Kabak. They've got Nat Phillips. They've got Reece Williams. I mean, the list goes on. I think even James Milner and Jordan Henderson have played at centre-half this season. So I think they will move people on. I don't think they'll renew Kabak. I think he'll go back to Schalke, and I think he'll have to find a club elsewhere. Ben Davies, they might move him on again. He signed in January on a 4 or 5 year contract, so he'll move on. People like Matip might be vulnerable because Matip's been there a long time. Isn't a first choice. He steps in when he's needed to. So they will have to sell players in the summer, clearly, because they've got too many centre-halves. But I think they'll stick with people like Nat Phillips and Reece Williams because they're young players that have done well, inexpensive in terms of wages. So they're going to have to find a way to trim the wage bill and to get players out the door because there's too many defenders. They're not going to play.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.